Friends, I'm sure you're familiar with the phrase, seeing is believing, or that you've recently heard a friend say something like, I'll believe it when I see it. We use phrases like this because our culture teaches us that really we're only supposed to trust in the things that we can taste, touch, feel, see, smell. Those are the things that you can rely on. But following Jesus requires us to believe in a whole lot of things that we can't see or can't see yet. There are many promises of God and ways that He is working in the world that I can't see with my own two eyes at this point. So how do I remain assured of the things that I cannot yet see? The author of Hebrews has some things to say about this. They are rounding third base in their sermon. They've spent chapters 1 through 10 building this argument for us about how Jesus is the greatest of all time. He's the greater than Moses. He offers greater rest. He's a greater high priest. He's a greater sacrifice. And so because we have the greatest of all time in Jesus, the author says to these Jewish Christians, God has replaced the old covenant. Not because it was bad, but because Jesus offers you something even better, and you lack nothing when you have Him. He's the greatest of all time. And I love the way that the author ends chapter 10, because they give this rallying cry and say, because we have Jesus, the greatest of all time. Verse 39, we are not of those who shrink back and are destroyed, but of those who have faith and preserve their souls. Even when the going gets tough, and believe you me, the going was getting tough for these Jewish Christians. Even when the going gets tough, we're not going to be those who shrink back, who abandon Jesus, who abandon the faith, who get small and hide away. We're going to be bold and stand firm in our faith because of Jesus. So what is faith? Here's their definition, 11 verse 1. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Not seen. And it's hard. The reason they're encouraging us and these early Jewish Christians to not shrink back is because there are plenty of reasons that we might want to. And so how do we have assurance of the things we hope for? How do we have conviction of the things that we cannot see? If you are feeling self-doubt that you can do such a thing, the author is prepared to answer you with about 40 verses of examples of people who have gone before you, who have held on to the faith even when the going got tough. And they're everyday people just like you and me. One of the main focuses of our passage today is Abraham. And if you think that Abraham was always rock solid in his faith, that he never doubted God, and that he never tried to force the promises himself instead of waiting for God to bring them about, I'd invite you to go revisit his story in Genesis 12 through 22, and you'll see that he had his moments, right? God isn't asking us to be perfect. But here's what I hold on to when I think about having conviction of things that I cannot yet see. When God asks me to have faith and trust Him, He isn't asking me to cross my fingers and close my eyes shut and jump into the void hoping I won't crash. He's asking me to lean on His sturdiness that I have known in the past. Here's what I mean by that. Faith isn't about shutting your brain off and wishfully jumping into the void. It's about looking back in all of the past times where God has been faithful to people like Abraham and Moses and David, and the times when he has been faithful to your parents and to your friends who follow Jesus, and to your pastors and to you. It's looking back at God's past faithfulness and saying, God was sturdy, like a solid piece of furniture. Every single time he was faithful, he was trustworthy. And the God who was trustworthy then, I can hang on and believe that he will be trustworthy in the future. His past faithfulness reassures me that I can count on his character to be consistent. And the greatest example, the cross and resurrection. I can think of no better example of God's faithfulness and sturdiness and trustworthiness to look back to than the fact that he decided to hang on a cross to get to me. Paul puts it better than I ever could in one of his epistles. He says, "Will not the God who did not even spare his own son for us, but gave up everything for us, will not that God surely also give us all things? Will not the God who sacrificed everything to be faithful to me also graciously be faithful in the future?" I can put my weight on a God like that. I can lean on and trust a God like that, even when I can't see. So I don't know what you're waiting for right now. I bet you're waiting for something. I bet there's something that you are hoping for that you cannot yet see, that you believe God has promised. And so my encouragement to you today, friends, is to look back at God's faithfulness. Look back at the way he's been faithful in your life, in your friends' lives. Look at the cross and the resurrection. The God who did that will graciously also come through on his other promises to us. One hope we all share is the hope of new creation. And that is definitely something I cannot yet see in its fullness, right? When I look at the world around me, it would be easy to shrink back because it doesn't look like paradise. I don't see healing and justice all of the time. I don't see the way that God is pushing back the darkness and making all things new. But I believe that one day I will see that he will set everything right, that there will be no more crying or pain or suffering, and that you and I will be the fullest, healthiest, perfect versions of ourselves that he always intended us to be. And even when the going gets tough, even when the world around me looks dark, even when following Jesus and picking up my cross feels hard and heavy, even when people don't treat me right, I can look at the cross and the resurrection and say, surely a God who did that. Surely a God who did that is somebody that I can trust to also bring about the redemption of all things. So friends, whatever it is that you are waiting on God for, may you look at the cross and the resurrection and remember that the God who did such a thing as not even sparing his own son, but giving up everything for us, he will graciously be faithful to everything he has promised you. Take care, friends.